One of the most important things to understand when dealing with a narcissist is the underlying nature of their behavior. Narcissism isn't just about someone being a little self-centered or vain. It's a deeply rooted personality trait that involves a constant need for admiration and validation. Narcissists often perceive themselves as superior to others and expect to be treated as such. This can manifest in many ways, from seeking constant praise to manipulating others for their own gain. They are skilled at twisting situations to maintain control, and they often have a knack for making others feel insignificant or unworthy. What many people don't realize is that a narcissist's need for attention and validation is not just a sign of arrogance, it's a sign of deep insecurity. They often have fragile egos that require constant reassurance to remain intact. If they feel challenged or exposed, their reaction can be intense. They may lash out with anger, manipulation, or even guilt tripping. The danger in engaging with such behavior is that it often becomes a cycle. The more you try to expose their flaws, confront their behavior, or challenge their sense of superiority, the more you feed into their need for attention. Narcissists thrive on conflict and drama, and by confronting them, you're inadvertently giving them the very validation they crave. Additionally, confronting a narcissist can be emotionally exhausting. They rarely admit fault, and their responses are often defensive and accusatory. The conversation never moves forward because the narcissist's primary goal is to protect their image, not to resolve conflict or understand another person's perspective. This leaves the person trying to confront them feeling drained, misunderstood, and often even more isolated. It can lead to a deep sense of frustration because no matter how much you try to explain your feelings or point out their behavior, it seems like nothing gets through. The narcissist may even turn the situation around and make it seem like you're the problem. This is why it's crucial to understand that engaging in direct confrontation with a narcissist may not only be futile, but harmful. It perpetuates the cycle of validation they crave and allows them to remain in control. The key to managing these relationships, or simply surviving in their presence, lies in recognizing that sometimes silence or disengagement is the most powerful response. By refusing to play into their need for attention, you take away the power they seek to dominate the situation. Instead of calling them out, the healthier choice may be to set boundaries. Protect your own emotional well-being and let go of the expectation that you can change them. Trying to alter a narcissist's behavior can often lead to even more pain and disappointment. They rarely change because they don't see anything wrong with their actions. However, by choosing to disengage and not invest your energy in futile confrontations, you can preserve your peace of mind. And more importantly, you can let go of the emotional burden of trying to fix someone who isn't ready to change. Ultimately, understanding the nature of narcissism, how it feeds off of attention, and how it manipulates situations to maintain control, helps you make better choices in how to deal with narcissists. By refusing to engage in their drama, you deny them the power they desperately seek, and you allow yourself to take the higher road, the road that doesn't require constant battles. The temptation to confront a narcissist is something that many people experience when they find themselves at the mercy of their toxic behavior. It's a natural reaction, especially when you feel hurt, misunderstood, or even manipulated. When someone constantly belittles or dismisses your feelings, it's easy to want to stand up for yourself, to call out their lies, or to expose the way they've treated you. The urge to confront them can feel justified because it seems like the right thing to do. After all, shouldn't the truth come to light? Shouldn't someone be held accountable for their actions? However, the reality is that confronting a narcissist rarely leads to the desired outcome. Narcissists are skilled at deflecting blame and turning the situation around to make themselves appear as the victim. They'll use your confrontation against you, often making you feel guilty or overreactive. If you try to expose their flaws or call out their behavior, they will rarely admit fault. Instead, they will either deny it completely or shift the blame onto you. This response can leave you feeling even more frustrated and confused, questioning your own perception of the situation. In most cases, Confronting a narcissist only feeds into their need for attention. They thrive on drama and conflict. When you confront them, you give them the emotional fuel they need to continue their manipulative behavior. The narcissist might even enjoy the chaos, as it allows them to assert their control and reinforce their superiority. In the end, the confrontation may end up being more about satisfying their ego than addressing the issue at hand. You may find yourself stuck in a back and forth cycle of accusations, hurtful words, and emotional exhaustion. Moreover, engaging in confrontation with a narcissist can drag you into a game you can't win. They often twist reality, gaslight you, or use your vulnerabilities against you. What started as a simple disagreement can escalate into a full-blown emotional attack, where you're left questioning your own reality. Narcissists have a way of wearing down your self-esteem and making you doubt your worth. The more you try to stand your ground, the more they will chip away at your confidence. In many ways, confronting them is like feeding a fire. It only makes the situation worse. It can be incredibly disheartening to realize that confronting a narcissist isn't the solution you hoped it would be. Instead of finding peace or resolution, you're left feeling defeated. The cycle continues, and you may find yourself emotionally drained with little to show for your efforts. This is why it's often better to step back and let go of the idea that confronting them will lead to a resolution. Sometimes walking away is the most powerful choice you can make, as difficult as it may seem. Another key point when dealing with a narcissist is the importance of silence and disengagement. As tempting as it may be to argue, expose their behavior, or try to make them understand how their actions have hurt you, silence can often speak louder than words. When you disengage from a narcissist, you deny them the attention they crave. By not reacting to their provocations, you take away their control over the situation. Narcissists rely heavily on drawing others into their drama, and without your participation, they are left with nothing to feed their ego. Silence doesn't mean you're being passive or allowing them to walk all over you. In fact, it's a powerful tool for self-preservation. When you stop feeding into their need for validation, you protect yourself from being pulled into their toxic web. Narcissists want to be the center of attention, but when they find that you're no longer engaging with their games, they lose that source of power. Your silence forces them to confront themselves, even if they would never admit it. It becomes clear that their manipulative tactics no longer work on you, and in many ways, this silent resistance is more effective than any confrontation could be. Moreover, by choosing silence over confrontation, you protect your own mental and emotional health. Narcissists often thrive on causing confusion, distress, and frustration. They want to destabilize your sense of self and keep you on edge. But when you stop reacting and stop engaging in their behavior, you regain control over your emotions. Instead of being swept up in their drama, you become the calm in the storm. Silence allows you to hold your ground without being dragged into unnecessary conflict. In many ways, silence is a form of strength. It's not about giving up or submitting to their behavior. It's about taking the higher road. When you don't engage, you demonstrate that you are unaffected by their tactics and that you are no longer willing to be part of their game. Narcissists feed on attention, and your refusal to engage denies them the satisfaction they seek. As a result, they may eventually find someone else to focus their attention on, and you can begin to focus on your own peace and healing. By choosing silence, you not only avoid further conflict, but you also set the stage for healthy boundaries. You can walk away from the situation knowing that you've made the conscious choice to protect your well-being. In doing so, you let go of the need to confront or change the narcissist. Instead, you turn your attention inward, focusing on what you can control, your response to the situation. One of the most powerful tools when dealing with a narcissist is the simple but profound decision to embrace silence. In a world where we are often encouraged to speak our minds, to stand up for ourselves, and to confront wrongdoing, choosing silence can seem counterintuitive, especially when someone's behavior has been hurtful or manipulative. However, silence in the face of a narcissist's need for attention can be an incredibly effective strategy. Narcissists thrive on conflict, drama, and validation, and every word, every reaction, every attempt to engage with them often feeds into their ego. The more you react to their provocations, the more they feel justified in their actions, reinforcing their control over the situation. By remaining silent, you take away their power. Silence speaks volumes because it refuses to participate in their game. When a narcissist doesn't get the expected emotional response from you, whether it's anger, sadness, or even just frustration, they are left with no ammunition. They may try harder, escalate their behavior, or even become more aggressive, but you've already taken away their greatest tool, your emotional investment. It's not about avoiding confrontation out of fear, but rather choosing not to engage in a futile battle that leaves you feeling drained and hurt. Silence is a form of self-preservation. It's about recognizing that no matter what you say, the narcissist is unlikely to see the truth from your perspective, and often they only become more entrenched in their own distorted view of reality. By refusing to argue or defend yourself, you deny them the satisfaction of knowing they have successfully pulled you into their chaotic world. It's a quiet act of strength, showing that you are no longer willing to be a pawn in their emotional manipulations. Another crucial point when dealing with narcissists is the idea of trusting God's plan. Narcissists can be incredibly draining, and it's easy to get caught up in trying to right the wrongs they commit or expose their lies. However, trying to fight these battles alone can lead to frustration and emotional exhaustion. When you choose to trust in God's plan, you are essentially handing over the burden of justice and resolution to a higher power. Narcissists often distort the truth and manipulate situations to their advantage, leaving you feeling powerless. But God sees everything, the intentions behind their words, the hidden agendas, the damage they cause, and He is the ultimate judge of character. Trusting God means acknowledging that you are not alone in your struggles and that there is a divine purpose even in the most challenging relationships. It's about letting go of the need to control the outcome and instead trusting that God's timing and plan will bring justice, healing, and peace. This doesn't mean you ignore the hurt or pretend that the narcissist's actions don't matter. It means understanding that you don't have to carry the weight of trying to fix everything. God's justice is far greater than anything we can achieve on our own, and He can transform situations in ways that we may never fully understand. By trusting in God, you release yourself from the constant battle of confrontation and embrace the peace that comes with knowing that, in the end, everything will be set right in His time. Finally, it's essential to recognize the importance of setting boundaries when dealing with narcissistic individuals. Narcissists, by nature, often do not respect personal space or emotional boundaries. They feel entitled to your attention, your time, and your energy without regard for your needs or feelings. Setting boundaries isn't just about protecting yourself from being manipulated. It's about preserving your peace, mental health, and emotional well-being. Boundaries are an essential form of self-respect. They are not an attack on the narcissist, but a clear declaration of what you are willing to tolerate and what you are not. When you allow someone to constantly overstep your boundaries, whether it's through emotional manipulation, constant demands for attention, or outright disrespect, you enable them to continue their toxic behavior. Setting boundaries requires a level of inner strength and self-awareness. It's about recognizing your worth and not allowing anyone to treat you as less than that. But setting boundaries with a narcissist can be especially challenging because they may react with anger, confusion, or guilt tripping. They will try to make you feel selfish, unreasonable, or even guilty for asserting your needs. However, it's crucial to stand firm. Boundaries are a way of protecting your energy and keeping your peace intact. The more you enforce your boundaries, the less power the narcissist has over you. Over time, they may attempt to test your limits, pushing you to see how much they can get away with, but as long as you remain consistent, they will eventually learn that their manipulative tactics no longer work. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you are closing yourself off from love or connection. Rather, it is a way to create healthier, more respectful relationships, even if the person in question is a narcissist. By setting and enforcing boundaries, you take back control over your own life and begin to heal from the damage caused by toxic relationships. Understanding the nature of narcissism is crucial when dealing with narcissists in any part of your life. Narcissism is not just about someone being a little self-centered or prideful. It's a complex and often deeply rooted personality trait that manifests in a constant need for admiration and validation, often at the expense of others. Narcissists tend to view themselves as superior to those around them, and they expect to be treated as such. They thrive on attention, recognition, and control, using others to prop up their own fragile sense of self-worth. The most troubling part of interacting with a narcissist is the realization that their behavior is not only selfish, but also manipulative. They often gaslight those around them, making you question your perception of reality. When a narcissist behaves in ways that hurt you, their instinct is not to apologize or acknowledge the hurt, but instead to deflect blame and preserve their image. This could lead to a pattern where the narcissist makes you feel guilty or responsible for their actions. Because of their inability to empathize with others and their tendency to project their insecurities, confronting a narcissist about their behavior may not lead to any resolution. Instead, it could worsen the situation, leaving you emotionally drained and confused. Narcissists don't care about the truth in the same way others do. Their primary concern is maintaining the narrative that suits their needs. Therefore, understanding that narcissism is rooted in an emotional imbalance can help you detach from the need to confront them, recognizing that they are unlikely to change. This understanding allows you to stop feeding into their need for validation, instead focusing on protecting your own emotional well-being. When dealing with a narcissist, it's important to realize that God has a much better plan for addressing the challenges narcissists present. It's easy to get caught up in the emotional whirlwind they create and feel compelled to confront or expose them, hoping for justice or clarity. However, trying to take matters into your own hands can lead to frustration and unnecessary heartache. In situations like these, turning to God for guidance and trusting His plan becomes not only a source of comfort, but also a way to preserve your peace. Narcissists are often skilled manipulators, and they can make you feel as if you are in a constant battle with them. They twist the truth, deflect blame, and make it nearly impossible to get to a place of understanding or resolution. However, God sees everything: the manipulative behavior, the underlying insecurities, and the harm they cause. He understands the depth of the situation and has a divine plan that will unfold in His time. Trusting in God means letting go of the need to control the situation. It's about acknowledging that you don't have to be the one to fix the narcissist or hold them accountable for their actions. God will bring justice in His own way, and in the meantime, you can focus on your own healing and growth. It's a humbling realization that even though we might want to take matters into our own hands, God is the ultimate judge and has the ability to right wrongs in ways we cannot even imagine. By trusting in God's plan, you free yourself from the weight of constant conflict and allow Him to handle what you cannot. Setting boundaries is one of the most essential steps in dealing with narcissists, yet it's often one of the hardest. Narcissists are notorious for overstepping boundaries, taking advantage of others, and expecting the world to revolve around them. They don't just cross lines, they trample over them, making it incredibly difficult to maintain healthy emotional boundaries. If you don't set clear limits, the narcissist will continue to take and take, leaving you feeling drained and unappreciated. The idea of setting boundaries is not about being harsh or unkind. It's about protecting your emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. Healthy boundaries are about drawing a line and saying, "This is where I end and you begin." It's about protecting your space and refusing to allow someone to exploit your kindness or use you for their own benefit. Setting boundaries with a narcissist requires great strength and clarity. Narcissists don't understand or respect boundaries the way others do, and they often react with anger, confusion, or guilt. They might try to make you feel bad for asserting your needs, or they might even try to make you question whether your boundaries are reasonable. But in reality, setting boundaries is a form of self-respect. It's a declaration that your feelings matter and that you are worthy of love and respect. While it may take time for a narcissist to adjust to the new limits you set, remaining firm in your boundaries will help you protect your peace. Over time, they may try to push these boundaries, testing how much they can get away with, but consistency is key. When you consistently enforce your boundaries, you show the narcissist that their manipulative tactics won't work on you. You stop being an emotional sponge for their negativity and start taking charge of your emotional environment. Forgiveness is another crucial aspect to consider when dealing with a narcissist, though it may seem counterintuitive. After all, how can you forgive someone who has treated you so poorly, who has manipulated you, lied to you, or used you for their own gain? Forgiveness in this context doesn't mean that you condone their behavior or that you pretend the harm they've caused you doesn't matter. Rather, forgiveness is a way to release yourself from the emotional burden of resentment and pain. Narcissists can cause deep wounds, especially when they've hurt you repeatedly. Their lack of empathy and inability to take responsibility can make it hard to even consider forgiveness. But holding on to anger and resentment only allows them to continue hurting you, whether directly or through the power they still have over your emotions. When you choose to forgive, you aren't excusing their behavior. You are choosing to free yourself from the weight of carrying that anger. Forgiveness is about healing yourself, not the narcissist. It's about releasing yourself from the emotional grip they have on you. This process is often difficult, especially because narcissists rarely acknowledge their wrongdoing, much less apologize. But forgiveness allows you to break free from the cycle of hurt and begin to heal. It's a way of reclaiming your power, your peace, and your joy. By choosing to forgive, you aren't giving them a free pass. You are choosing to let go of the emotional burden that weighs you down. It's a gift to yourself, allowing you to move forward without being held captive by the past. When you are faced with a narcissist, one of the most difficult and essential things to recognize is that narcissism, at its core, is driven by a deep sense of insecurity. While on the surface, narcissists appear confident, self-assured, and often larger than life, the truth is that their sense of self-worth is fragile and built on a foundation of constant admiration and validation. This deep insecurity makes them prone to manipulation, control, and a constant need to feel superior to others. Narcissists do not view relationships as mutual respectful connections, but rather as transactions where they gain admiration, status, or power. This is why they will often use others as tools to serve their needs. They view other people's emotions as secondary to their own desires and have an uncanny ability to exploit others' vulnerabilities. Understanding that narcissists are driven by insecurity is important because it helps you detach emotionally from their behavior. The more you try to confront them or call them out for their actions, the more you will find yourself in a never-ending cycle of manipulation. Narcissists feed off attention, whether it's positive or negative, and they are experts at turning the tables to make you feel guilty for their actions. When you understand that their behavior stems from a place of insecurity rather than malice, it becomes easier to accept that engaging with them will likely never lead to a productive or positive outcome. It shifts your focus away from trying to fix them or change their behavior and instead encourages you to focus on your own emotional health and well-being. Another critical realization when dealing with a narcissist is that engaging in direct confrontation with them is often futile and more often than not harmful. At first, it may seem like the right course of action to call out their behavior, to confront them with the truth, and demand accountability. After all, narcissists are known for their manipulative and deceitful behavior, and exposing them seems like the right thing to do. However, narcissists are rarely, if ever, willing to take responsibility for their actions. They lack the empathy necessary to understand the harm they cause, and their egos are so fragile that they will do anything to protect their image and maintain control. When confronted, they typically react defensively, either by outright denying their behavior or by projecting blame onto others. In many cases, they may twist the situation, making it seem like you are the one in the wrong, even when you are simply trying to point out the truth. Narcissists will often manipulate the conversation to make you feel as though you are overreacting, unreasonable, or even selfish. This kind of confrontation rarely leads to any resolution and instead only drains your emotional energy. The cycle of frustration and confusion deepens as you become further entangled in their web of lies and distortions. In fact, confronting a narcissist can fuel their need for attention and validation. Even negative attention, such as anger, frustration, or an emotional outburst, feeds their ego, as it centers the conversation around them and gives them the control they seek. Therefore, engaging in direct confrontation with a narcissist often only exacerbates the situation. It doesn't lead to the desired outcome of accountability or change, but rather perpetuates the toxic dynamics and leaves you feeling emotionally depleted. In addition to avoiding direct confrontation, one of the most powerful responses to a narcissist's behavior is to adopt a mindset of non-engagement. This does not mean ignoring your feelings or pretending that their actions don't affect you, but rather choosing to step back from the emotional games they play. Narcissists often provoke reactions from others, knowing that they can manipulate emotions to maintain control. They may try to draw you into an argument, get you to react emotionally, or provoke feelings of guilt or self-doubt. Non-engagement means not reacting to their provocations. It means refusing to allow their words or actions to dictate your emotional state. This doesn't mean you become cold or indifferent, but it involves consciously deciding not to feed into their need for drama and conflict. By choosing not to react, you essentially take the power away from the narcissist. They can no longer control your emotions or manipulate you into responding in a way that benefits them. Non-engagement can be challenging, especially if you've been accustomed to trying to reason with or change the narcissist. But over time, it becomes a powerful tool for maintaining your emotional stability. Narcissists thrive on causing chaos, and by choosing not to engage in their drama, you take away their ability to upset you. It can be incredibly freeing to recognize that you don't need to respond to every provocation or engage in every argument. Non-engagement allows you to preserve your peace and focus on your own healing, rather than getting caught up in the narcissist's emotional web. When dealing with a narcissist, it's crucial to recognize the importance of setting and enforcing boundaries. Narcissists are notorious for pushing limits and disregarding the needs and feelings of others. They often expect those around them to accommodate their demands, and they rarely respect personal boundaries. If you allow a narcissist to overstep your boundaries, they will likely continue to do so, draining your energy and causing emotional harm. Setting boundaries is not about controlling the narcissist, it's about protecting your own emotional well-being. Boundaries help you define what is acceptable behavior and what is not. They are a way of asserting that you will not tolerate manipulation, disrespect, or exploitation. However, setting boundaries with a narcissist is often met with resistance. They may try to guilt trip you, manipulate you into feeling like your boundaries are unreasonable, or accuse you of being selfish. This is why it is crucial to be consistent and firm in enforcing your boundaries. While the narcissist may initially push back, over time they will learn that their tactics no longer work on you. Boundaries allow you to take back control of your own life, your emotional health, and your relationships. They are a form of self-respect, and while narcissists may try to make you feel bad for asserting your needs, setting boundaries is a sign of strength, not weakness. The more you enforce your boundaries, the more you show the narcissist that you are not willing to be their emotional punching bag or plaything. Boundaries give you the space to heal, regain your sense of self, and protect your peace from the narcissist's toxic influence. Another significant aspect of dealing with narcissists is the importance of self-care and emotional healing. Being in a relationship with a narcissist, whether it's a family member, partner, or colleague, can take a toll on your mental, emotional, and even physical health. Narcissists have a way of eroding your self-esteem, causing you to question your worth, and making you feel as though you are not enough. They may try to manipulate you into believing that their behavior is your fault or that you are overreacting. Over time, this constant emotional battering can leave you feeling exhausted, confused, and emotionally drained. This is why it is so important to prioritize self-care and healing. Taking time for yourself, whether it's through therapy, meditation, journaling, or simply engaging in activities that bring you joy and relaxation, is essential for restoring your emotional balance. Self-care isn't selfish. It's necessary for your survival and well-being. When you are constantly exposed to toxic behavior, it's easy to lose touch with who you are and what you need. Self-care helps you reconnect with your true self and remind yourself that you deserve respect, love, and kindness. It also helps you build emotional resilience so that you can handle the challenges of dealing with a narcissist without losing your sense of self. Healing may take time, and it's important to be patient with yourselves. It's okay to grieve the emotional wounds caused by the narcissist, but it's also important to recognize that you have the power to heal. Through self-care and emotional work, you can regain your strength, rebuild your self-esteem, and move forward with confidence. One of the most important aspects of dealing with a narcissist is understanding that their behavior is often driven by a deep-seated fear of being vulnerable or exposed. Beneath the facade of superiority and confidence, narcissists are typically terrified of being perceived as weak, flawed, or unworthy. This fear can manifest in many ways, such as an obsession with perfection, an exaggerated need for validation, and an inability to accept criticism. The more you try to challenge their sense of superiority or expose their flaws, the more aggressively they will protect this fragile image. They often go to great lengths to maintain control over how others perceive them, which includes manipulating situations, using others as scapegoats, or lying to uphold their desired self-image. What many don't realize is that the narcissist's outward arrogance is merely a shield to hide an inner sense of insecurity. This fear of vulnerability often leads to self-destructive patterns in their behavior, including toxic relationships, deceit, and manipulation. They build up walls to prevent anyone from seeing who they truly are, because doing so would threaten their sense of self. Understanding this underlying fear can help you detach emotionally from their behavior and stop trying to convince them of their flaws or need for change. Instead of confronting them directly or challenging their delusions, you can recognize that the narcissist's actions are rooted in fear and are ultimately out of your control. This realization can help you stop taking their behavior personally, reducing the emotional toll of interacting with them. Another critical aspect when dealing with a narcissist is recognizing the dangers of trying to change or fix them. The desire to help others is a natural and compassionate impulse, but with a narcissist, this desire is often misplaced and ultimately futile. Narcissists are rarely open to change because they do not believe there is anything wrong with their behavior. In fact, they typically view their actions as justified, no matter how harmful they may be to others. When confronted, narcissists are more likely to respond defensively, deny responsibility, or even blame others for their behavior. They are unlikely to reflect on their actions in a meaningful way or acknowledge that they need to change. Narcissists have a grandiose sense of self and often believe that they are above reproach. They have a distorted perception of reality that protects their ego and prevents them from seeing the truth about their behavior. As a result, any attempts to change or fix a narcissist are often met with resistance, anger, and resentment. These attempts can also drag you into a cycle of disappointment and frustration, leaving you feeling exhausted and emotionally drained. By accepting that you cannot change a narcissist, you free yourself from the unrealistic expectation that you can fix their flaws. This shift in perspective allows you to stop investing emotional energy into something that is beyond your control and instead focus on managing your own well-being. One of the most effective tools when dealing with narcissists is learning to recognize their tactics of emotional manipulation. Narcissists are often experts in manipulating the emotions of those around them, using tactics such as guilt tripping, gaslighting, and playing the victim to control the situation. They may say things that make you feel responsible for their emotions or try to make you feel guilty for setting boundaries. Gaslighting is a particularly harmful tactic where the narcissist distorts reality to make you doubt your own perceptions. They may deny things they've said or done, even if you have clear evidence, causing you to question your memory and judgment. Over time, this can erode your sense of self-trust and make you second-guess your thoughts and feelings. Narcissists are highly skilled at creating confusion and doubt, often leaving their victims feeling emotionally disoriented and insecure. Recognizing these manipulation tactics is key to protecting yourself from their influence. By understanding that their goal is to manipulate and control, you can begin to distance yourself emotionally from their behavior. You learn not to internalize their actions and start to trust your own instincts again. Knowing that the narcissist is playing mind games can help you stay grounded in your own reality, preventing them from manipulating you into doubting yourself or your perception. Another essential point when dealing with narcissists is understanding the long-term emotional toll they can have on your well-being. Narcissistic relationships are often marked by emotional highs and lows, periods of idealization followed by devaluation. At the beginning of a relationship with a narcissist, they may shower you with attention, affection, and praise, making you feel special and valued. However, this idealization phase is often short-lived, and once the narcissist has secured your admiration and attention, they begin to shift toward devaluation. This shift can be subtle at first, with small criticisms or dismissals, but over time it escalates to a full-on disregard for your feelings. The narcissist may belittle your accomplishments, dismiss your needs, or even criticize you for things they once praised. The inconsistency in how they treat you can leave you feeling emotionally unstable, constantly walking on eggshells, never knowing when you'll be the target of their disdain. This emotional roller coaster can be incredibly draining as you are constantly adjusting your behavior to meet their ever-changing expectations. Over time, you may find that you've lost touch with your own sense of identity as the narcissist's behavior forces you to prioritize their needs and desires above your own. This emotional toll can lead to anxiety, depression, and a diminished sense of self-worth. The longer you remain in a relationship with a narcissist, the more difficult it becomes to reclaim your own emotional health. Recognizing the toxic dynamics at play is crucial for breaking free from this cycle and prioritizing your own well-being. One of the most important aspects of moving on from a narcissistic relationship is the ability to trust in your own judgment again. Narcissists have a unique ability to cloud your perception of reality, often leading you to question your own thoughts and feelings. Gaslighting, emotional manipulation, and constant invalidation can make you doubt your own intuition, leading you to second-guess yourself at every turn. This can be particularly damaging as it chips away at your self-confidence and makes you feel as though you can't trust yourself. Rebuilding trust in yourself requires time, reflection, and self-compassion. It involves reconnecting with your values, your sense of self, and your emotional needs. It means learning to trust your instincts again and believing that your feelings are valid. In many ways, healing from narcissistic abuse is about reclaiming your own voice and trusting that your thoughts, feelings, and perceptions are legitimate. Over time, as you distance yourself from the narcissist and their toxic influence, you can begin to rebuild your self-trust. This process is not always easy, as the narcissist's manipulations may have left deep scars, but it is a crucial step in reclaiming your emotional health and moving forward with confidence. Lastly, it's important to acknowledge the importance of seeking support when dealing with a narcissist. Narcissistic relationships are isolating, and narcissists often try to separate you from your support network, making it difficult to seek help or share your experiences with others. They may undermine your relationships with friends and family, making you feel as though no one else understands you or has your best interests at heart. This isolation can leave you feeling vulnerable, uncertain, and without a clear sense of direction. Seeking support from trusted friends, family members, or a therapist can provide you with a much-needed perspective and a safe space to process your emotions. Talking to others who have experienced similar situations or seeking professional guidance can help you gain clarity, validate your experiences, and reinforce your sense of self-worth. Support systems are crucial for helping you regain perspective, especially when the narcissist's manipulations have clouded your judgment. By leaning on others for support, you can gain strength, find healing, and begin to navigate the challenges of disengaging from the narcissist's toxic influence. When dealing with a narcissist, it is important to recognize that narcissists tend to live in a world that revolves around themselves, which makes them incredibly self-absorbed and unwilling to engage in true, meaningful relationships. This self-centeredness manifests in their constant need for admiration, attention, and validation, often leading them to manipulate and use others to fulfill their emotional needs. Narcissists can be charming, charismatic, and highly persuasive, which allows them to attract and maintain relationships, but these connections are typically shallow and based on what they can extract from others. They view people not as individuals with their own needs, but as tools or extensions of themselves that can offer validation, status, or admiration. In such relationships, narcissists rarely show empathy or concern for others' emotions, which can make interactions with them feel one-sided and emotionally draining. They may only show interest in others when they need something, such as praise, attention, or support. This dynamic often leads to frustration, confusion, and a sense of emotional emptiness for those involved with them, as their needs are often sidelined or ignored in favor of the narcissist's desire for control or validation. When you begin to understand that the narcissist's behavior stems from an inability to connect with others in a healthy, reciprocal way, it becomes easier to detach from their emotional games and not take their actions personally. Another crucial point to keep in mind when dealing with a narcissist is that their behavior is often rooted in childhood trauma or unmet emotional needs. While this doesn't excuse their actions, it can offer some context for why narcissists act the way they do. Many narcissists develop their traits as a defense mechanism in response to early life experiences that were emotionally or psychologically damaging. They may have grown up in environments where they were either overly praised or excessively criticized, both of which can distort their sense of self-worth. The narcissist's inflated sense of self is often a mask for deep feelings of insecurity and vulnerability. Their need for external validation becomes a way to compensate for this internal sense of inadequacy. Narcissists may struggle to form authentic connections because they were never taught how to do so, either due to neglect, emotional abuse, or a lack of healthy role models in their formative years. Recognizing that the narcissist's actions are likely the result of unresolved childhood trauma or emotional wounds can help you detach from the personal nature of their behavior. You can understand that they are operating from a place of deep emotional pain, even if they don't recognize it themselves. However, this knowledge can also help you let go of the unrealistic expectation that they will ever truly change, as their emotional development may be stunted by these early life experiences. One of the most important aspects of dealing with a narcissist is learning to set and maintain firm emotional boundaries. Narcissists are known for testing limits and trying to push others into situations where they can extract something of value, whether it's attention, validation, or control. They are not typically sensitive to the needs or feelings of others, and they often cross personal boundaries without hesitation. If you do not establish and enforce clear boundaries with a narcissist, they will likely take advantage of your kindness, time, and emotional energy. Setting boundaries with a narcissist can be especially challenging, as they may react with anger, resentment, or manipulation in an attempt to undermine your limits. They may try to guilt trip you into feeling as though your boundaries are unreasonable or selfish, but the key is to stay firm and consistent. Boundaries are not about controlling the narcissist's behavior. They are about protecting your own well-being. They allow you to define what behavior you are willing to accept and what is unacceptable. By setting these boundaries, you signal that you value yourself and your emotional health, which can help reduce the narcissist's ability to dominate your interactions. While it may take time for the narcissist to respect your boundaries, staying consistent and firm over time will communicate that their usual tactics of manipulation will no longer work on you. This consistency helps you regain control of your emotional space and protects you from being drained by their toxic behavior. Another important aspect of dealing with narcissists is recognizing that their need for constant attention and validation often comes at the expense of other people's emotional needs. Narcissists have an insatiable desire for admiration, and this need is often their driving force in relationships. They will go to great lengths to get others to view them in a positive light, using flattery, charm, and charisma to manipulate perceptions. In many cases, they may even elevate themselves at the expense of others, belittling, undermining, or criticizing those around them to make themselves appear superior. This is particularly evident in the way narcissists often exploit others' vulnerabilities. They may use your emotional needs, insecurities, or weaknesses to control and manipulate you, making you feel small or inadequate in comparison to their inflated sense of self. Narcissists are experts at making you feel as though you exist to serve their emotional needs, and will use tactics such as guilt, shame, or emotional blackmail to ensure you remain focused on them. Recognizing that narcissists are constantly in need of admiration and attention can help you understand that their behavior is not personal, but driven by their insatiable thirst for validation. This realization allows you to disengage emotionally from their manipulative tactics and focus on maintaining your own emotional equilibrium instead of seeking their approval. It is also essential to realize that narcissists often lack true empathy and have a limited ability to understand or care about the feelings of others. This lack of empathy is one of the most damaging aspects of narcissism, as it leads to behaviors that are dismissive, hurtful, and inconsiderate. Narcissists are generally unable to put themselves in someone else's shoes and may dismiss or invalidate your emotions, especially if they conflict with their own desires or needs. When you try to express your feelings or concerns, the narcissist is likely to minimize your emotions or even accuse you of being too sensitive or irrational. This emotional disregard can lead to feelings of isolation, frustration, and confusion, as you may feel as though your feelings don't matter or that you are constantly being misunderstood. Narcissists may also struggle to recognize when they've hurt others, and even if they do acknowledge it, their apology may come with strings attached or may not be sincere. Their lack of empathy makes it difficult for them to connect with others in a meaningful, supportive way. Instead of seeking validation or empathy from a narcissist, it is vital to recognize that they are incapable of offering it in a genuine, constructive manner. Understanding this limitation allows you to stop seeking emotional support from them and to focus on building healthy relationships with others who can meet your emotional needs. Another important factor to consider when dealing with a narcissist is their tendency to gaslight others in an effort to distort reality and maintain control over situations. Gaslighting is a manipulative tactic in which the narcissist distorts facts, makes you doubt your perceptions, and attempts to rewrite history to suit their narrative. This can include denying things they've said or done, manipulating situations to make you feel as though you're overreacting, or accusing you of misremembering events. The goal of gaslighting is to undermine your confidence and sense of self, making you question your memory, judgment, and even your own sanity. Gaslighting is particularly damaging because it can create a sense of cognitive dissonance where you are unable to reconcile the narcissist's version of reality with your own lived experiences. Over time, this can leave you feeling confused, anxious, and unsure of yourself. Recognizing gaslighting for what it is, an intentional, manipulative attempt to distort your perception of reality, can help you protect yourself from its effects. When you encounter gaslighting, it is important to trust your own instincts and seek external validation from trusted friends, family, or professionals who can help you maintain clarity and perspective. The more you understand that gaslighting is a tactic of control, the more empowered you will feel to reject it and stand firm in your own reality. Lastly, it is vital to prioritize self-care and emotional healing when navigating relationships with narcissists. Narcissistic relationships can be incredibly draining as they often involve a constant cycle of emotional manipulation, devaluation, and control. The emotional toll of these dynamics can leave you feeling exhausted, anxious, and disconnected from your sense of self. Prioritizing self-care allows you to reclaim your emotional well-being and begin the process of healing. This may involve engaging in activities that bring you joy and relaxation, setting aside time for self-reflection, and seeking professional support if needed. Therapy or counseling can be especially helpful in processing the emotional wounds caused by narcissistic abuse and in rebuilding your self-esteem. Self-care is not just about physical relaxation. It also involves emotional and mental nourishment. By focusing on your own needs and healing, you can regain the strength and clarity needed to detach from the narcissist's influence and move forward in a healthier direction. Prioritizing self-care also helps you rebuild your emotional resilience so you can better cope with the challenges that come with dealing with a narcissist and protect yourself from further harm. When navigating relationships with a narcissist, one of the most difficult realizations is that narcissists often exhibit patterns of idealization and devaluation. These cycles can leave you feeling emotionally drained and confused as the narcissist's treatment of you fluctuates between extremes. During the idealization phase, the narcissist may shower you with attention, admiration, and affection, making you feel like you are the most important person in the world. They may compliment you constantly, be highly attentive, and make you feel like they see and understand you in ways no one else ever has. This phase can feel intoxicating, as narcissists are often experts at making others feel special and valued, creating an illusion of deep emotional connection. However, once they feel they have secured your admiration and emotional investment, they begin to devalue you. This can look like withdrawing attention, criticizing you for things that were once praised, or showing a blatant disregard for your feelings. The narcissist may make hurtful comments or act cold and indifferent, leaving you confused and questioning what went wrong. This inconsistency can lead to emotional whiplash, where you constantly try to regain the affection and validation you received during the idealization phase. The narcissist's behavior is not based on genuine love or affection, but rather on their need for control and validation. This emotional roller coaster often leaves you feeling insecure, anxious, and self-doubting as you try to navigate the highs and lows of their approval and disapproval. Over time, these cycles of idealization and devaluation can take a serious toll on your emotional well-being, leading you to constantly question your worth and your place in the narcissist world. An often overlooked aspect of dealing with narcissists is the psychological toll they can impose through the use of love bombing. Narcissists are highly adept at using manipulative tactics to create a false sense of intimacy, often at the beginning of a relationship. Love bombing is a technique where the narcissist overwhelms you with affection, gifts, compliments, and promises of a future together, all designed to quickly establish a sense of closeness and trust. This intense attention and flattery can make you feel special and desired, and you may begin to develop strong emotional attachments to them. The narcissist may seem like the perfect partner, friend, or confidant, making you believe that you have found someone who truly understands you. However, once the narcissist feels they have gained your trust and emotional dependence, they begin to withdraw their affection or use it as a form of manipulation. The shift can be sudden, leaving you questioning the sincerity of their previous behavior. Love bombing is often a tactic used by narcissists to secure your loyalty and attention ensuring that you are emotionally invested in the relationship before they begin to show their true, more manipulative nature. This sudden change in behavior can leave you feeling hurt, confused, and betrayed. The narcissist's goal is to create a cycle of emotional dependence, where you continuously seek the validation and affection that was once freely given. This cycle of emotional highs and lows can make it difficult to leave, as you are constantly waiting for the next wave of attention or love, even if it is only temporary. Recognizing love bombing for what it is, an emotional manipulation tactic, can help you break free from the narcissist's control and begin to focus on your own emotional needs. The narcissist's need for constant admiration and validation often leads them to exploit others in ways that can feel exploitative and harmful. Narcissists see people as tools to validate their own sense of self-worth, and they are often willing to manipulate, deceive, or discard those around them when they no longer serve a purpose in fulfilling their desires. They are highly skilled at playing on the insecurities of others, using flattery, guilt, or emotional manipulation to extract what they want. For example, a narcissist may shower someone with praise and admiration to make them feel special, only to later use their need for validation as leverage. Once the narcissist has secured your emotional investment, they may start demanding more of your time, energy, or resources without offering anything in return. This exploitative behavior can be draining, as you may find yourself constantly giving and sacrificing in an attempt to meet the narcissist's needs, only to be met with coldness, criticism, or disregard once you have done so. Narcissists often fail to reciprocate the emotional labor others put into relationships, and they may even view such efforts as owed to them rather than as acts of genuine kindness. The result is an emotionally imbalanced dynamic where one person is continually giving while the narcissist takes, without concern for fairness or mutual respect. Recognizing this dynamic can help you detach emotionally and protect yourself from further exploitation. Instead of seeking to meet the narcissist's needs at your own expense, you can shift your focus toward finding balance and self-care, rather than being drained by the constant emotional demands of the narcissist. Another aspect of interacting with a narcissist is their tendency to disregard the feelings, boundaries, and needs of others. Narcissists typically lack empathy and have difficulty understanding or caring about the emotional experiences of those around them. They are primarily concerned with their own desires and see others as either obstacles or tools to be used for their benefit. When it comes to emotional expression, narcissists may be dismissive of others' feelings, seeing them as irrelevant or a hindrance to their own needs. If you try to express your emotions, particularly if they are negative or critical of the narcissist's behavior, the narcissist is likely to respond with defensiveness, anger, or complete disregard for your concerns. They may belittle your feelings, accuse you of being overly sensitive, or turn the conversation around to focus on their own emotions and needs, leaving you feeling unheard and invalidated. This lack of empathy can be particularly damaging in relationships, as it creates a deep emotional void. Instead of receiving understanding or support, you are left to navigate your emotions on your own, while the narcissist continues to prioritize their own emotional gratification. Over time, this emotional neglect can lead to feelings of isolation, frustration, and confusion, as you begin to question whether your feelings are valid or whether you are overreacting. Learning to recognize this pattern of emotional neglect is crucial for protecting your emotional health and detaching from the narcissist's behavior. One of the most manipulative tactics that narcissists use is playing the victim in order to gain sympathy and control. Narcissists are often adept at shifting blame and responsibility onto others, portraying themselves as the one who is always wronged or misunderstood. This tactic is designed to garner sympathy, gain attention, and deflect any accountability for their actions. They may exaggerate or fabricate stories of how others have mistreated them, positioning themselves as the innocent party who is constantly being attacked, betrayed, or hurt. This ability to play the victim allows the narcissist to manipulate others into feeling sorry for them or rallying behind them in their quest for validation and revenge. By adopting the victim role, the narcissist can redirect focus away from their harmful behavior and instead garner emotional support from others, making it difficult for you or anyone else to hold them accountable. This can also work to isolate you from other people who may see through the narcissist's manipulation, as you may begin to doubt your own perceptions and feel as though you are the one who is in the wrong. Recognizing that the narcissist is using this tactic to manipulate your emotions can help you regain clarity and perspective. When you stop buying into the victim narrative and start to see it as a manipulation tactic, you can stop allowing the narcissist to control the emotional narrative and take steps to protect yourself from their manipulative behavior. A critical aspect of dealing with a narcissist is understanding that their behavior can often escalate when they feel threatened or challenged. Narcissists have a fragile ego and a deep-seated fear of being exposed, criticized, or made to feel inferior. When their sense of superiority or self-pity is threatened, they often react with hostility, rage, or vindictiveness. This can occur in situations where they are confronted about their behavior, criticized, or where their need for admiration is not being met. Instead of accepting responsibility or reflecting on their actions, narcissists typically lash out, attempting to discredit the person challenging them or shifting blame to others. This defensive response is rooted in their fear of vulnerability and their need to maintain control and superiority. Narcissists may resort to name-calling, belittling, or even attempting to destroy your reputation in order to regain their sense of power. These reactions can be intense and emotionally overwhelming, especially if you are caught in the crossfire. The narcissist's emotional outbursts are not an invitation to engage in a rational discussion or resolve the conflict. They are simply an attempt to protect their fragile self-emotion and avoid accountability. Recognizing that these reactions are rooted in insecurity can help you maintain emotional detachment and avoid being dragged into unnecessary conflicts or emotional battles with the narcissist. Finally, an essential part of healing from a relationship with a narcissist is understanding the importance of personal growth and rebuilding your sense of self-worth. Narcissistic relationships often leave individuals feeling diminished, as the narcissist's manipulative behavior and emotional neglect can erode confidence and self-esteem over time. You may begin to question your own worth as the narcissist's constant need for validation and emotional dominance forces you to focus on their needs while neglecting your own. Reclaiming your sense of self-worth requires focusing on your own needs, setting healthy boundaries, and engaging in self-care practices that prioritize your emotional well-being. Rebuilding your confidence involves recognizing the impact that the narcissist's behavior had on your mental and emotional state and making conscious efforts to undo the damage. This may involve seeking therapy, practicing self-compassion, and surrounding yourself with supportive individuals who value you for who you are rather than for what you can do for them. Over time, as you heal and regain your sense of identity, you can begin to build healthier relationships and approach future interactions with greater emotional resilience. Personal growth is a journey of rediscovery where you learn to prioritize your needs and reestablish your self-worth without being defined by the narcissist's manipulations or judgments. Dealing with a narcissist often involves a constant battle for control and attention. Narcissists are individuals who have an inflated sense of self-importance and a deep need for validation, and they will do whatever it takes to ensure they maintain this control. They often manipulate situations, emotions, and perceptions to maintain the upper hand in their relationships, making it difficult for those around them to assert themselves or even have their needs met. One of the key tactics they use is creating an environment where their needs are always prioritized, often at the expense of others. For example, they may insist on making decisions without consulting you, disregarding your opinions, or steering the conversation so that it always centers around them. They can subtly or overtly belittle or dismiss your thoughts, feelings, or experiences in favor of their own. Over time, you may begin to feel that your identity is being overshadowed by their presence, and your own needs and desires are no longer significant. Narcissists often demand loyalty, admiration, and attention while offering very little in return. The more they seek control, the more they expect the other person to continually cater to their whims and desires without question. This need for control is not just about exerting power over another person. It stems from the narcissist's inability to regulate their own self-worth internally. They depend on the validation of others to maintain their fragile sense of self, and any attempt to break free from their control can result in emotional punishment. This can manifest in anger, manipulation, guilt-tripping, or even silent treatment, leaving you to question whether you are overreacting or whether their behavior is truly harmful. Understanding that the narcissist's need for control is rooted in insecurity rather than genuine malice can provide you with the perspective needed to stop taking their attempts at domination personally. A significant challenge in dealing with a narcissist is the constant emotional manipulation they engage in, which can take a toll on your mental health over time. Narcissists are experts at manipulating others into giving them what they want, and they often do so by playing on your emotions, making you feel guilty, confused, or responsible for their happiness. This form of manipulation is subtle and insidious, making it difficult to recognize at first, but once you become aware of it, you can start to protect yourself from its damaging effects. For example, a narcissist may use guilt as a weapon to get you to meet their demands. They might say things like, "If you truly cared about me, you would do this," or "I've done so much for you, the least you can do is this one thing for me." These statements are designed to make you feel indebted to them, as if you owe them something because of their past actions. Narcissists may also use emotional blackmail to get you to comply with their wishes, threatening to end the relationship or withdraw their affection if you don't meet their demands. This can create a sense of fear and urgency, forcing you to make decisions that prioritize their needs over your own, often at the expense of your well-being. Emotional manipulation is particularly damaging because it creates doubt in your mind, making you question whether you are being unreasonable or selfish for not complying. Over time, this can erode your self-esteem and make you feel as though you are walking on eggshells, constantly trying to avoid conflict or upsetting the narcissist. Recognizing emotional manipulation is key to protecting yourself. Once you see the patterns, you can begin to detach emotionally, set boundaries, and refuse to be controlled by guilt or fear. Another tactic often employed by narcissists is the constant need to belittle others in order to elevate themselves. Narcissists thrive on comparison, and they often engage in behaviors that put others down to make themselves appear superior. This can include openly criticizing or mocking others, undermining their achievements, or making dismissive comments about their capabilities or worth. This behavior is not driven by genuine criticism or a desire for improvement, but by a narcissist's need to assert dominance and control. By putting others down, the narcissist reinforces their own sense of superiority and feeds their fragile ego. For example, a narcissist may constantly brag about their own accomplishments while belittling someone else's, even if that person has achieved something impressive. They may diminish someone's success by saying things like, "Well, that's not that big of a deal," or "Anyone could do that if they tried." This behavior can leave you feeling invalidated, as though your achievements are insignificant or that your worth is constantly being undermined. Over time, this constant devaluation can wear down your self-esteem, causing you to question your own abilities and achievements. The narcissist's need to diminish others is a reflection of their insecurity and lack of self-worth. They cannot tolerate the idea of anyone being better than them, so they seek to tear others down to feel better about themselves. Recognizing this behavior for what it is, an attempt to elevate themselves by degrading others, can help you detach emotionally and stop internalizing their criticisms. By understanding that their words are more about their own need for validation than a reflection of your worth, you can reclaim your confidence and stop allowing them to dictate your self-perception. Narcissists are also notorious for their lack of accountability and their ability to deflect blame onto others. One of the hallmarks of narcissistic behavior is an unwillingness to take responsibility for their actions, particularly when those actions cause harm to others. Instead of owning up to their mistakes or acknowledging the hurt they have caused, narcissists will often shift the blame onto others, making them the scapegoat for any problems in the relationship. If confronted about their behavior, they may deny it, minimize its impact, or claim that they are the one who has been wronged. For example, if a narcissist is caught in a lie, they may accuse you of overreacting, being paranoid, or misunderstanding the situation. If they hurt your feelings, they may claim that you are too sensitive or that you are the one causing problems in the relationship. This pattern of denial and deflection is exhausting because it leaves you constantly questioning your own perception of events. You may begin to doubt your own memory, feelings, and judgment as the narcissist works to distort reality and avoid accountability. This lack of accountability can also make it difficult to address issues in the relationship, as the narcissist will always find a way to avoid responsibility and place the blame on you. Over time, this can lead to feelings of frustration, confusion, and self-doubt as you try to navigate a relationship with someone who refuses to acknowledge their faults. The key to breaking free from this cycle is recognizing that the narcissist's inability to take responsibility is not a reflection of you, but a reflection of their own emotional immaturity and insecurity. Once you understand this, you can stop internalizing their blame and begin to assert your own reality and experiences. Gaslighting is another highly manipulative tactic commonly used by narcissists, and it can be one of the most damaging forms of psychological manipulation. Gaslighting is a form of emotional abuse in which the narcissist manipulates you into doubting your own perception of reality. They may deny things they've said or done, accuse you of being forgetful or irrational, or twist facts to make you feel as though you are losing your grip on reality. For example, a narcissist might say, "That's not what I said at all. You're just imagining things." Or, "You're overreacting. It wasn't even a big deal." Over time, this can create confusion and self-doubt, making you second-guess your own memory, instincts, and feelings. Gaslighting is particularly insidious because it erodes your confidence in your own judgment, making it easier for the narcissist to control and manipulate you. They may even go so far as to rewrite history, presenting a version of events that suits their narrative, leaving you to question your own recollection of what actually happened. The goal of gaslighting is to destabilize you emotionally and make you more reliant on the narcissist's version of reality. It can create a sense of disorientation where you feel uncertain about your own experiences and find yourself constantly seeking reassurance from the narcissist. Recognizing gaslighting for what it is, a deliberate attempt to distort your reality, can help you reclaim control over your own thoughts and emotions. When you trust your own perceptions and learn to spot the signs of gaslighting, you can protect yourself from its damaging effects and regain your sense of clarity and self-assurance. One of the most hurtful aspects of a relationship with a narcissist is their tendency to abandon or discard people once they no longer serve a purpose in their lives. Narcissists have a transactional view of relationships, where people are valued based on what they can provide. If someone is no longer able to offer admiration, validation, or emotional support, the narcissist may suddenly withdraw, become distant, or even cut ties entirely. This discard phase can be jarring and painful, especially if you were emotionally invested in the relationship. The narcissist may suddenly stop communicating, show little to no empathy, or even act as though the relationship never mattered. This abrupt and cold behavior can leave you feeling rejected, confused, and heartbroken. You may find yourself desperately trying to get their attention or win back their approval, not understanding why they have seemingly moved on without a second thought. This pattern of discard is a direct result of the narcissist's inability to form genuine, reciprocal relationships. For them, people are simply tools to fulfill their emotional needs, and once those needs are no longer being met, they have no qualms about discarding you in favor of someone who can. Understanding this behavior can help you detach emotionally and stop chasing after someone who views you as disposable. Recognizing that the narcissist's inability to maintain genuine connections is a reflection of their own emotional immaturity can help you regain a sense of self-worth and move on from the relationship. Lastly, it is important to understand that a narcissist's behavior is driven by a deep fear of being exposed or seen for who they truly are. Beneath the inflated self-image and outward confidence lies an individual who is deeply insecure, unfulfilled, and terrified of vulnerability. Narcissists go to great lengths to protect this fragile ego, often using manipulation, lies, and deception to maintain the illusion of superiority. They are highly sensitive to any criticism, and they will do anything to deflect or avoid it. This fear of exposure is why narcissists are often so skilled at wearing masks, presenting one version of themselves to the world while hiding their true feelings of inadequacy. If they feel threatened or criticized, they may lash out in anger or try to turn the situation around to make it about the other person's flaws rather than their own. This fear of being exposed often drives their manipulative behavior, as they are desperate to maintain control over how they are perceived. The narcissist's need to protect their image is a reflection of their deep emotional wounds and their inability to face their own vulnerability. Understanding that their behavior is rooted in fear rather than malice can help you detach emotionally and stop internalizing their attacks. By recognizing the underlying insecurity that drives the narcissist's actions, you can begin to see their behavior for what it is: a defense mechanism designed to protect their fragile ego. When dealing with a narcissist, it's critical to recognize the nature of their emotional manipulation and how it affects your ability to maintain your sense of self. Narcissists often have an insatiable need for admiration and validation, and their self-esteem is entirely dependent on the approval and attention they receive from others. This creates a one-sided dynamic in the relationship, where your emotional needs, desires, and boundaries are constantly ignored or dismissed. The narcissist's focus is always on themselves, and this behavior can lead to a deep sense of emotional neglect for anyone in their life. Their lack of empathy makes it impossible for them to truly understand or care about the emotions of others, leading to feelings of loneliness and isolation for those around them. They may not even recognize that their actions are harming you, as their worldview is centered entirely on their own needs and desires. In relationships with narcissists, emotional manipulation often plays a key role. They use guilt, gaslighting, and invalidation to control the way you think and feel, creating an environment where you're constantly questioning your own reality. The narcissist may trivialize your feelings or make you feel like you're overreacting, leading you to second-guess yourself and lose confidence in your perceptions and instincts. This can leave you emotionally drained and unsure of where to turn for support or validation, as the narcissist works tirelessly to shape your worldview to fit their own narrative. It's important to remember that their behavior is not a reflection of your worth, but rather a manifestation of their own insecurities and emotional immaturity. Recognizing this dynamic can help you detach from the narcissist's emotional manipulation and start focusing on your own well-being. One of the most damaging aspects of a relationship with a narcissist is the emotional roller coaster they create. Narcissists are notorious for their mood swings, which can leave you feeling completely disoriented and unsure of where you stand. They may shower you with affection one moment, only to become cold, distant, or even hostile the next. This inconsistency in behavior creates a toxic cycle where you constantly seek their approval, hoping to recreate the warmth and attention they once showed you. This inconsistency often leads to emotional whiplash, where you feel as if you are riding a never-ending emotional wave. During the idealization phase, the narcissist may make you feel as though you are their only focus and you are the most important person in their life. They may constantly compliment you, give you attention, and make you feel loved and valued. However, once they've captured your attention and secured your emotional investment, they begin to shift to the devaluation phase, where they start to disregard you, dismiss your needs, and show a lack of interest or affection. This sudden shift can leave you feeling confused and hurt as you begin to question what went wrong or why their behavior has changed. The narcissist's goal during this phase is to regain control and reassert their dominance in the relationship. This emotional cycle can be exhausting and leave you constantly questioning your own actions, wondering whether you're the one at fault. The ups and downs of the narcissist's behavior create a power dynamic where you feel compelled to prove your worth or win back their approval, leaving you emotionally vulnerable and dependent on their validation. Narcissists are also prone to using others for their own gain, often treating relationships as transactions rather than connections based on mutual respect or affection. They are highly adept at identifying people's vulnerabilities and using them to their advantage. This behavior is often referred to as using and discarding, as narcissists see others as tools to fulfill their own needs rather than as individuals with their own emotional needs and desires. For example, a narcissist may be extremely charming at the beginning of a relationship, showering you with compliments and attention in order to secure your loyalty and emotional investment. Once they have captured your affection, however, they begin to withdraw, demanding more and more from you while offering little in return. They may exploit your time, energy, and resources without ever considering the emotional toll this takes on you. The narcissist may be incredibly self-centered, expecting you to cater to their every need, while providing little or no emotional support when you need it most. If you attempt to assert your own needs or boundaries, the narcissist may react with anger, defensiveness, or indifference, making it clear that their needs are the only ones that matter. Over time, this exploitative dynamic can lead to emotional exhaustion, as you continually give without receiving any genuine emotional nourishment in return. The narcissist's lack of empathy and self-centeredness creates an imbalance in the relationship, leaving you feeling used, manipulated, and unimportant. Understanding that the narcissist's behavior is driven by their need for validation and control rather than genuine care or affection can help you break free from this one-sided dynamic. Narcissists often thrive on drama and conflict, using it to maintain control and manipulate those around them. They are typically skilled at creating chaos in relationships, which they use to further assert their power and control. This behavior can include starting arguments, provoking emotional reactions, or creating misunderstandings to cause division between people. Narcissists may thrive on the attention that conflict brings and use it to reinforce their sense of superiority. For example, they may provoke a fight by making hurtful or inflammatory comments, only to later claim that you overreacted or are too sensitive. They may twist the narrative to paint themselves as the victim, even though they were the one who instigated the conflict. By constantly keeping people off balance, the narcissist ensures that their behavior is never questioned and they can maintain a position of dominance. They may also use the drama to isolate you from others, making you doubt your friends and family or questioning their loyalty. In relationships with narcissists, it can feel as though you're constantly walking on eggshells, unsure of when the next argument or emotional outburst will occur. This unpredictability can make it difficult to relax or feel at ease, as you are always anticipating the next emotional bombshell. The narcissist's need for drama is rooted in their desire for control, and it can be a way for them to maintain a sense of power in their relationships. Recognizing the narcissist's need for chaos can help you detach from the drama and regain control over your own emotions and responses. Another insidious aspect of narcissistic behavior is their tendency to use passive-aggressive tactics to control others. Narcissists often have difficulty expressing their emotions or confronting issues directly, so they resort to subtle, indirect ways of manipulating others. For example, they may give you the silent treatment when they are upset, refusing to communicate or acknowledge you in an effort to punish or control you. They may make snide remarks, backhanded compliments, or passive-aggressive comments that leave you feeling unsettled or unsure of their true intentions. This behavior can be confusing because it is not always overt or direct, making it difficult to pinpoint exactly what is going on. A narcissist may also play games to test your loyalty or patience, such as withholding affection or attention, creating an atmosphere of uncertainty. This passive-aggressive behavior often results in emotional confusion, as you are left trying to figure out why the narcissist is acting cold or distant while they refuse to openly address their feelings or frustrations. The goal of passive-aggressive behavior is to manipulate you into doing what the narcissist wants without them having to directly ask or confront you. It also allows the narcissist to maintain control over the situation without taking responsibility for their actions. Over time, this indirect form of manipulation can wear down your emotional resilience and leave you questioning your own judgment. Recognizing passive-aggressive behavior for what it is can help you respond more effectively and maintain a sense of control over your own emotions. Narcissists are notorious for their inability to empathize with others, and this lack of empathy is one of the most damaging aspects of their behavior. They have a limited capacity for understanding or sharing the emotions of others, which makes it nearly impossible for them to form healthy, emotionally connected relationships. Instead of offering emotional support when you're in need, the narcissist will often dismiss or minimize your feelings, making you feel as though your emotional experiences are insignificant or unworthy of attention. For example, if you share a personal struggle or emotional difficulty, the narcissist may respond by turning the conversation back to themselves, ignoring your feelings entirely, or offering shallow, dismissive advice. They may even invalidate your emotions, telling you that you're being overly dramatic or sensitive. This lack of empathy is not just a minor flaw, it's a fundamental aspect of the narcissist personality. It stems from their inability to connect with others on a deeper emotional level, and their relentless need for admiration and attention leaves little room for genuine concern for others' well-being. Over time, this lack of empathy can leave you feeling emotionally neglected, invalidated, and disconnected from the person you care about. It can also lead to feelings of isolation, as you realize that your emotional needs will never be truly understood or met by the narcissist. Recognizing the narcissist's lack of empathy can help you stop expecting emotional support from someone who is incapable of providing it, and shift your focus toward relationships where empathy and mutual understanding are present. One of the most frustrating aspects of being in a relationship with a narcissist is their refusal to acknowledge or accept feedback, particularly when it comes to their behavior. Narcissists have an inflated sense of self and often believe that they are beyond reproach. This sense of entitlement and superiority makes it impossible for them to accept criticism or take responsibility for their actions. When confronted with their flaws or mistakes, they often react defensively, deny any wrongdoing, or shift the blame onto others. For example, if you point out that their behavior has hurt you, they may accuse you of being overly sensitive, exaggerating, or even lying. They may dismiss your feelings entirely, refusing to acknowledge the impact of their actions on you. This unwillingness to accept feedback or engage in constructive self-reflection creates a dynamic where the narcissist is always right and anyone who challenges them is seen as an enemy or adversary. This inability to self-reflect makes it difficult to resolve conflicts or work through issues in their relationship, as the narcissist will never acknowledge their role in creating problems. Over time, this constant denial of responsibility can lead to frustration and resentment, as you are left feeling unheard and invalidated. Understanding that the narcissist's refusal to accept feedback is rooted in their fragile ego and deep fear of being exposed can help you stop internalizing their defensive reactions and focus on protecting your emotional well-being. Narcissists often exhibit controlling behaviors, particularly when it comes to how others perceive them. They are highly concerned with their public image and will go to great lengths to manipulate how they are viewed by others. This can involve exaggerating their accomplishments, downplaying their flaws, or even lying to create a more favorable image. The narcissist may seek to control how others see them by carefully curating their persona, using charm and charisma to influence those around them. This can extend to their relationships as well, as they may try to control how you behave, dress, or interact with others in order to maintain their desired image. For example, a narcissist may make disparaging remarks about your appearance, suggest that you act differently in social settings, or try to isolate you from people who they feel threaten their image. Their need for control is driven by their fear of being exposed or seen for who they truly are, someone who is insecure, unfulfilled, and desperate for validation. By controlling others, the narcissist creates an illusion of perfection that shields them from the reality of their own inadequacy. Recognizing these controlling behaviors for what they are, manipulations designed to preserve the narcissist's fragile self-image, can help you detach from the pressure to conform and begin asserting your own identity in the relationship.